beautiful souls and creative minds. Welcome to The Artist Stoop, the podcast where we turn the art world into your personal playground. I'm Jillian Zapata, your host, and I can't wait to dive into the art world with you. Each episode will be kicking it with an incredible artist, unraveling their stories and turning the spotlight on the magic that happens beyond the brush. Get ready to discover new perspectives, forge connections, and immerse yourself one captivating conversation at a time. So grab your favorite beverage, maybe a sketchbook, and let's jump into the kaleidoscope of creativity together. This is The Artist Stoop, where art isn't just a thing you see, it's an experience you feel. The dynamic and inspiring Lavanya Challa. Lavanya's abstract paintings, with their vibrant colors and bold brushstrokes, bring canvases to life, reflecting her fearless spirit and unique perspective. Originally trained in architecture and design school in India, Lavanya eventually found her true calling in art. Her journey took a profound turn when she became a mother for the second time to a special needs daughter. This experience pushed her to embrace the present and dive headfirst into her creative pursuits. Her work is characterized by spontaneity and meticulous composition, and evokes deep emotion and sparks the imagination. She is now a full-time artist and mother based in Plano, Texas, and she continues to inspire others through her art and exhibitions across Texas. So today, we are inviting Lavanya to the podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jillian, for having me.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you on. We've met several times in person, and the second time was obviously at the other art fair, which is becoming a very typical thing for me to say on here. But we did meet at the other art fair, not once, but twice, 2 different years. So yeah, how was that experience of the art fair for you?
Oh, it's like a party, I feel. It's like a high energy party, like a pub. Everybody's, pouring all their effort into it. I just enjoyed meeting so many new artists, appreciating their new work, my work, being seen for, being known for your work is different than just being known for who you are. So it was really cool. And people came by, we were talking, some people asked me different questions which I usually don't get. So it was really great.
Yeah, no, it is really fun, and I do have to say, this last May, it was truly busy. Like it was busier than
Yes.
it's ever been, and so it was really fun to see all the different art, and I feel like the level of artwork this last time was just like really outstanding.
Yeah.
And you got to have your own booth, and I do think having that experience where you actually get to talk to potential collectors one-on-one is really fun and inspiring, getting people to ask you questions about your work. Did you have success at the show?
Well, it depends on how you measure it.
How about, let's say, did you have financial success at
Not
the
at the
fair?
level I expected, but that's always the case, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I think what I was struck by was, so this is the running kind of theme I've heard. People don't come out when it rains. A little bit of
Right.
rain and people don't come out, but that didn't happen at the other art fair. There were so many people there. I think
Yeah.
I was blown away by how many people came through, and they were picking up art that's not the traditional art. Like some of it was, surrealism, funky, all kinds of weird stuff. And that was so good to see. People appreciating art that's not mainstream. And I
Yeah.
think that was my favorite part. Everybody had something they were picking up. And
Yeah.
I just loved that.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah, it was obviously, here in Dallas we've had just like the craziest, like the wettest spring in a long time. Like,
Yeah.
it has rained so much, but it was Mother's Day weekend, and like Friday night was good. Saturday was good, but it was Sunday was like torrential
Yeah.
downpour. But it was Mother's Day, so I think it was just like, oh, it's something we can go do with our moms, and it's fun, and
Yes.
it's indoors, away from the rain. So I
Right.
think like that's always,
And there were
you
so
know,
many kids there enjoying
yes,
art, looking at, oh, I like this, I like that. And I just love that the kids are exposed to
hmm
art, different kinds of expression at an early age.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I had my little one there. You
yeah.
know, he was, and he definitely was fascinated by stuff for colors and people watching and all that.
Yeah.
So it is fun to see kids being able to experience not
Yes.
only the art itself, but then to see people as artists. Like
Yeah.
this is a career path, you know.
Hmm.
It's different, but it is a career path, and I think that that's also really important for young kids to see.
True.
Yeah. So let's dive into your work. And speaking of kids, so you say being a mother, you're a full time mom, you're also a full time artist, but you say watching and being around your children reminded you of your own childhood. How does your own childhood, and your children affect your work and inspiration?
It's kind of a long answer with a few
That's fine.
examples.
We're here for it. That's what we're
Okay.
here for.
So I used to teach art, I think maybe 10 years ago for
Yeah.
about a few years. And I would see kids, they had this unique language, this unique expression of their art, but they were so involved in or so caught up in having their art look like a realistic drawing, like making it look like a photograph. And they would keep, discounting their creativity, their artistic language to, oh, it's bad, it's not perfect. And I used to see that as a kid, kids have this wild imagination. They've got these crazy ideas. And then they go through this kind of period of trying to conform to good and perfect art. And then
hmm
you come out at an adult, like you go through art school and you want to go back to that expression as a kid. You want to create your own language. You want to unlearn all those, patterns or fixations about perfect art. And so I think that was a reminder I got through my kids and teaching art. Like I said, like you mentioned, I have a daughter with autism. She's now 11, and watching her grow up is like the biggest inspiration for me. And some of the examples are, so she's very, uh, well, neurodivergent. So none of her ideas conform to what we're used to or what we teach kids. And so this one summer, she was playing with all her toys. She picks up things from the kitchen. She took a kangaroo, like a figurine, and she put a funnel, like a spout, the you know
hmm
what I mean by a funnel,
Yeah.
right?
Fun. Yeah.
And she took the narrowest part of the funnel, the one that where the liquid gets into the bottle, and stuck it to the kangaroo's tail. And that was an arrangement for her. She used it's like a found object sculpture. And she
hmm
made a lot of those. Like she'd take squash and put two googly eyes on it, or she'd take like a wooden board with pegs, like color matching pegs. She would take out the pegs and find objects that match the color and arrange them in that slot. So that kind of thinking is so out of the box, and I just simply love that. And I think that's what I want to bring to my work. I want to unlearn all these, you know I would say conformity, or all these things that I've picked up. And another story about that is when I was a kid, maybe I was in uh, first or second grade, I made a drawing of a girl skipping, jump roping. And my teachers loved it. I took it to school, teacher loved it, and she made everybody else in the class do that. Now, when we were all doing the drawing as a class project, some of the kids used like a bottle lid for getting to get the circle perfect. Now, I did the drawing without any of that, but looking at my friends, I thought I needed to do the same way. And I took a bottle and drew the circle perfectly. And my teacher said she was really disappointed that I was copying the friends who she was giving showing them my work. So it's like I was able to draw a circle. I wouldn't say perfect circle, but decent circle
By
without help.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And they needed the tool. But I thought that's how I need to be. It needs to be perfect. And so it's that kind of thinking that comes in the way. And as artists, I feel it's our job to show people that we need to steer away from that kind of perfect thinking and really go with freestyle, free spirit. And that's what informs my work.
Yeah. I love that. You aren't the only one when because I'm one of three girls, and my older sister and I were 3 years apart. So, and I'm younger, my older sister, and we had coloring books, and she would take her fine, sharp pens, and she
Yeah.
would outline. Obviously, most of our stuff was like Disney princess coloring books, and like she would outline along the edges perfectly and then color in the lines and whatever. And I didn't do that. I was like all over the place using different colors and whatnot. And she told me I colored wrong. And she would make fun of me for coloring wrong. And so I had to start doing exactly like what she was doing. But it's really, and it's interesting because then it's just like, I am, obviously I'm three
Hmm.
years younger. I'm going to copy my older sister because she is absolutely right,
Hmm.
to a 3-year-old, 4-year-old when you're coloring. And yeah, it just kind of changed the way that I looked at things until I went, nope, I want to do it my way. And it is really interesting because at one point I have taught art as well to children, and just using different things. And one of my favorite things, when it was a construction paper process, and we were learning about Henri Rousseau and like his paintings. There's nothing is in proportion. Not like the color isn't what it should be. So it's like the sky could be purple, the sky could be
Hmm.
yellow. One hand could be this big and one hand could be this big, kind of a thing. And we had the kids with construction paper cut out and then like put on top and create these scenes. And then I would walk around and ask them, like, well, what can you describe to me what's happening? What's the story? And their stories were, this is happening, and then it's raining Cheetos. And, they were just coming out with this exuberant ideas and whatnot. And it's just so fascinating how every single kid was completely different. And then they had all these ideas in their head on their own. Like, no
Hmm.
one guided them. No one told them, like, you need to paint like this, you need to do this. And it's really fun to see how kids create. And I do think, what you're saying is so important, is that we as artists, we need to remember how to be kids,
Hmm.
how to let our imaginations completely run wild without any judgment of other people or the outside world, or is this going to be bad?
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what? So you paint very beautiful, vibrant abstracts, but you say that they're carefully planned and executed. So, what type of planning goes into your pieces before you start? Because you're not the only one. I plan my pieces out like before I start painting. So you are not the only one with this. But what is your process
Uh,
in
uh,
in creating?
sure. I'm laughing because I say plan, but it's not really the traditional sense of planning. So I start off, my first few steps is chaos. So I'm just going in there, I'm putting the color, I'm putting paint, big blots of color or, heavy mark making. And then I start somewhere halfway, I start editing. Then I'm looking at,
Mm,
okay, which color needs to be balanced here? Like this, now I'm gonna talk in color. It's just like there's a lot of blue. How can I balance this painting? And so then I go to, maybe it needs a little bit of orange, like a complementary color. Or maybe it needs, maybe not orange, but some other tint of it. So the plan is in the way I sit with it. I
Hmm.
look at it, I study it, I see how is my eye moving across the canvas? Is this
Hmm.
enough? Do I want more of this? And then I take what's emerging. Like, let's say there's this beautiful combination of fusion of few colors that emerge. And I think, ooh, I love that. Let me kind of continue that in the other parts of the painting. And then there's a lot of editing I do. Like I take away a lot of things to bring in that negative space. So when I say planning and process, it's more that I nudge it a certain way. So I want to go it, and I think I'm responding to an aesthetic in my head, which I've till date tried to put in words, and I've just failed. And then my husband goes, "Yeah, I guess artists aren't great with words all the time." So it's like I'm trying to, I think, tease it out. It's like kneading dough,
Yes.
and I call that planning. I think it cracked
I
me up when I was thinking about it.
Yeah, it's an intuitive approach. It's intuitive planning because
Yes.
you know what I mean, because it's artists, we make 1,000 little decisions when we're
Yeah.
painting, and it's careful execution
Yeah.
of layering. And so I understand, I get it. And but yeah, no, I think comparing it to bread making is very it's a process, it takes time, and you have to
Yeah.
have a lot of patience. Sometimes
Yeah.
it turns out great, and sometimes you have to go back and like fix the recipe a little bit or try again. Try a
Right.
little bit less water, a little bit more water this time. Maybe this color, it truly is. It's like that.
And like you said, there are so many minute, like, split second decisions we're making. It's hard to capture all of that as a step by step, but you get so efficient at making those decisions faster and faster that it looks like it just came out. But
Hmm.
you know how, 5 years apart, those decisions took longer, and now it takes shorter time. So it's like that.
Yeah, it's the it's just like with any sport, or just anything that takes a lot of practice. If you practice, um, you
It's
I
like your
heard
body has this muscle memory,
yes, yeah.
and you don't need to expressively give an instruction. It's just happening,
Yeah, you just
though it's not.
automatically know. Yeah, it's like your body knows what to do whether you tell it to or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. um so do you typically paint like in collections or one-offs, or like
So I've
how
I've I've tried collections, and I think I would say I failed miserably. Uh, I it just never comes out. It's everything's one off, and what I do is like this one. I painted this painting, and I just loved how I painted it, and I went in and edited. I took stuff out, and I liked that process. And then I went on and tried to do it in a bunch of different paintings. Now the process is the same, but they look different.
yeah,
So I really struggle with. I've even tried painting four things at the same time, or six little paintings at the same time to get like a collection. It just
it
doesn't.
just doesn't
So
happen.
it's each one is this unique. Maybe I can do pairs, but that's about
Yeah,
it. I can make a pair, but
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's everyone. You aren't the only one that does one-offs for things. Like you just go with your gut and what you're feeling.
yeah,
So, inspiration comes from passions and talents and life experiences. And so, do you want to share some of those inspirations behind a painting,
sure.
or talk about a few of them?
It kind of goes back to what I've already kind of shared so far. Like one of my passions is transformation, like going through this process and going through a whole learning and coming to the other side, and you're unrecognizable, like a butterfly, like a caterpillar that goes through this cocooning process, and what comes out is completely different. And for me, in painting, that's the process. So when I start painting, go with full self-expression. I'm just excited, putting all my energy into it. And then midway, I'm attached. I'm completely attached to this half-done painting. I cannot just say it's done. It's got that semi-ugly stage, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
panic, and then I have to like really give myself a self-talk, compose myself, and get it's okay, you can paint over this. You did it once, you can do it again. And then when I let go of all that, then there's this amazing painting. And half the time I can't even say how I arrived there because there's this whole process I go through of self-doubt and oh, this is ugly. I hate it. What am I even doing? What? So it's I think the process is transformative. And that's one of the things I'm passionate about in life. And I read a lot of books about things like this, like people who go through experiences and they come out different at the end. And the other one I'm passionate about is mysteries, solving puzzles. I don't have the patience for doing, crosswords and puzzles, but a painting, solving the puzzle of a painting, like how can I make this composition sing? Now that's something I just love. So I spend hours looking at a painting. I'm in my mind trying to add, remove. So it's I think all of this comes down to all of my experiences so far instruct the way I paint. The other thing is being a mom of a special needs child. Nothing goes as planned. And
Mm-hmm.
I know she'll take more than 5 years to finish elementary school. It's 6 years, right? More than six. To learn the same stuff her peers are learning. And that's okay. We've learned to accept that that's okay. And that's just a natural process of life. It's the other kids that we've gotten used to this expectation that everybody has to go through school in 12 or
Yeah.
13 years. That's just become it was a guideline initially, and it became now a norm, but that's not true. Each one has their own unique set of abilities and speeds at which they learn. And so I think all of this teaches me how to be with my painting, how to paint. And I keep falling down the trap of comparing myself with the artist, well, just like I
Yeah.
did as a kid, right? And I think, oh, I did this. I shouldn't have painted this fast. I should have at least a lot of hours in it. And so sometimes something takes 20 hours, sometimes something takes just 2 hours, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I think keeping in mind those kind of nuances about life helps me be a better painter and inspires me to. So it's like every time it's a transformative process for me. I hope
Yeah.
that answers the question. I even forgot the
Yeah.
question.
No, it's it's a very I think unique approach to working as an artist because you do have this unique perspective, with your daughter, and it's very for I don't want to say wholesome, but it's you're right. There everyone learns and transforms differently, and for you to be able to take that real life experience and then translate it over to one a painting itself, but then also your process, and then you as an artist and your growth and development, and then the growth and development of a painting.
Hmm.
Because I think it's fun. You said something that's like, oh yeah, that's totally true. It's just like we as artists, in order for like us to be like, oh, it took me hours to paint it, so it must be good. But then there's other paintings that just truly flow out of you, and it takes like an hour or two. It's just like I feel like that should have took longer for this, for it to be a better quality. But the quality is still just as good if in
Yeah.
that quick painting than it is in one that took a little bit longer. And I think there's a lot of us as artists that have had that moment like this shouldn't be that easy for that one, and then others it's just like you and I are not cooperating you
Hmm.
know we are not getting along right now. So it's either we need to take a break, I need to come back fresh eyes, and then let's talk, let's work through everything that we need to solve a puzzle to get this to be, the best painting that it is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Good.
fun way to look at it, you know.
Yeah.
So is there any pieces that you'd like to, tell us about in particular?
Sure. Right now, I mean, this one, this is my
Yeah,
most, it's not
I
recent.
love
I
the
painted it a while ago. It's
I love
recent
the
in this,
color composition.
isn't it? It's, I
Yeah,
was, I didn't think yellow would go with, I don't know, what do you call this color? Teal? Light
yeah, it's
green,
like
blue
it's
green,
like a light, yeah, it's like a
right?
turquoisey teal, but like very muted.
And so it didn't look like this. It's like a painting that I started in 2022. I painted like I said, chaos. I did a lot of things. I put it aside. I even took it to a photo shoot. It it looked great. And I came
Hmm.
back and I said, I need to do something with it. I just went in with some new colors, and really, you won't believe, I edited stuff out. I took out a lot of things, and then I let it sit there on my wall because I wanted to add something more. And because it wasn't the kind of work I've done before, so I didn't know whether it was good or bad, and it was missing something because I've done paintings where it's very busy and minimal is not something that comes easy to me. And I left it there on the wall for many, many months. I've even taken some of the ideas from this, made a few other paintings. And last week I came back to it after the other art fair because I go back to big paintings. I think big paintings is where I can do my best. It's I can bring a huge piece of chaos to, harmony. And and there's a lot I can say, there's a lot I can create. So I just stretched it. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is enough. I just needed to let it be for a couple of, I think months. I just let it be. And then I was like, I don't think it needs anything. And now I want to make it again. I'm pretty sure I'll try, but it's
Yeah,
not gonna look the same. But I think I could take what I learned and apply it.
yeah. I
And
think Yeah. I think it's really fun because I do the same thing. Like I walk away from a painting, like I'll leave it up and I'll stare and I'll look in at it, and it sometimes it does need to tell you what it needs. And it's funny that you said that you stretched it. It's really interesting because I paint on raw canvas too, flat, like I pin it to the wall, and then
yeah,
I obviously leave my borders, and then I stretch it when I'm done. And it's so interesting. It's like once you do that one little thing and you lose your borders or whatever that
yeah,
are, and you're like, that completely changes it.
yeah,
It's such a weird thing that it's just like you wish you could explain it to people and show that little change in it
yeah, yeah.
and go, oh my gosh, I see what I either need to do now, or
Right.
like, oh, I need to take a step back. It's not quite done, or there's too much of this, and that you're right. That editing process is so unique, and it's. I've done that several times as well, and I'm glad that I'm not the only one that
Yeah.
when you
Me
stretch
too.
it, it's like it's a game changer.
And then there's this other question. That time that you take to look at it and edit and look at what it needs, is that part of the process? Does that count as number of hours of painting? And
Yes.
so how do you tell people that, oh, it took 2 years to,
Yeah. I
yeah,
I I have a painting that took me a while, and it was actually something that it was actually part of my senior project in high school, and I got to the point where I was like, I'm graduating, I got my grade, I don't need to finish this painting, and it was just like 80% done, and I kept it. I kept like whatever, and that was 2007. I came back and then my parents told me that I had to clean all my crap out of their garage, the um,
Hmm.
attic, and I went and I collected all my art supplies, and I was like, I think I should finish this painting now. And I came back to it. It was like 2016 or 2017, and I finished that painting. But there was a good
Yeah,
solid 8-9 year gap there. That's like I know what I need to do with it now, and so much changed in
right,
it. And it's just like my style was different, but it was like a really fun process. Because it's like even though yours was like a 2-year process, it's like you in that time frame you change as an artist. You learn things from other paintings that you can then bring forward and be
right.
like, I needed patience with this one. What I didn't know that I needed to learn first to be able to apply to this painting for it to be complete.
Right. In fact, your perspective changes, and what you think is good and bad shifts. Just
Oh,
like
yeah.
kids have that shift, constant shift. I think that's the key to any painting, like how we look at it. And I think we're looking at all the paintings from what we've seen so far. So to come up with something new, I think anything new, novel, will look ugly at first.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, because you don't know, because you have nothing to judge it to or compare it to. So it's just
Right,
like, that's it. And it's like with anything in life, that's either new technology or new fashion or whatever. It's
right.
just like, we're all like a little hesitant at first. I was like, do
Hmm.
we like this? Do we not? Where's this going? But I think it's healthy, to push those boundaries to find new things that
Yeah,
are, I don't want to say changing the status quo, but ultimately like
yeah.
changing the status quo.
In fact, I've been painting to like a couple of new things. I'm working on a self-portrait,
Oh,
and I call it the echoes of my past self because I'm
okay.
constantly trying to be like something I was in the past. I'm not just looking at the future and or the present and just enjoying it. Something about the past I need to fix or be like that again. And so this constant, like, like my ears on the past, like kind of looking at it. So I was, and it's something I don't do representation, not because I don't like it, but I think because as a person, I don't really care about giving my opinions that much to people. And so it's that kind of thing in my painting. Like, I don't want to tell you what to think.
Okay.
But to push myself, I've been working on few. I wanted to bring something architectural, like my background, to painting. So I've been playing around with, trying to look, where did I put it? Playing around with something representational and abstract, and you know, uh, so these are the few new projects I've been working on.
Yeah, I think that's really, I think it's fun to push yourself to work on new ideas and new concepts. And that leads me to another question. So it's just like you have an architecture background, which is something that's so strict, structured, like there is a lot of things, and then you went into abstract. So it's just like, how did you decide to paint abstracts, but how is it now potentially merging something that's structured with something that's abstract?
So I was kind of thinking about this morning. I think I was bringing a lot of art to my ad architecture projects, and a lot of architecture to my art projects. And I think I was good at designing from the ground up, like looking at a site and with all these elements that go into a design, like there's function, there's form, there's, human interaction, there's flow of how people walk or use the space, understanding like the specifications and all these regulations that you have to follow, like how
Yeah.
far is the building from this, the fence. And you take all these ideas and then you come up with a design that's unique. And I always thought, wow, these constraints really gave me a new design, all those constraining factors. And I think that's the kind of uh, thinking I bring to my art, where I'm looking at a painting and there's this, it's like the site. and I'm looking
Mhm.
at it from the ground up, like this top-down view. And all of these, like the flow that I want people to see, that take them across the painting, and that follows a little bit of a flow. It's almost like that human interaction and how people use space, that kind of flow. I try to bring that in a painting. And so it's like I'm building layers, I'm pushing, pulling, and I think that's kind of how these two merge. The way I work on the composition is the way I've trained as an architect, with a lot of with my eye on a couple of things that I want. I wouldn't say everybody wants the same. So I feel it's like building a
Yeah.
building. It's like I'm putting layers. It's like Legos. You're putting stuff, you're removing stuff, you're seeing if this works, or if it doesn't. And it's all these minute decisions that I'm not even present to, I'm making, but it's been informing my work.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So, like, I'm really excited to see what this new stuff is. So, is it like having more, because you said representational. So, it's just
Right.
like, are you trying to have objects in it or like more linear lines meshing with
So the two paintings
abstract
I've been
or?
working on is, it has, like, I took a couple of skyscrapers,
Mhm.
and I like then I took these telephone poles or electric poles, and I made them the size of a skyscraper. And then so I've pushed and pulled, contradicting the scales or
Okay.
perspectives. Then I put a clothesline at the, top of the building. It's now the reference I used for the skyscraper was, I think, one of those Malaysian buildings, the Petronas, one of those.
Yeah.
A clothesline is never going to get that high, but I wanted to kind of have these contradictions in the painting. So it's like I've layered them all on top. It's like transparent little pieces, all just kind of placed one in front of the other, but you're looking at it from the top down. So I was really excited. I put birds in it. I put a traffic light, a stop sign, all
Yeah.
kinds of things. I took like site design and I put it there. So it's like it's just to play with things and tease out, like you said, with the Andre Matisse project you did with the kids, like exaggerating one element and then
Yeah.
contradicting something else to kind of get some visual interest.
Yeah.
And in one interesting thing I noticed in the process was I do that a lot with color
Yeah.
and lines without using any of the straight lines that I'm used to, or any of the proper, like, clear form. It's all organic in my work. So it was interesting to see how I can use line to achieve the same kind of art language that I have in my paintings with these two new works. And they're on paper. I'm just going crazy, going wild with it. And
Yeah.
it gave me a better understanding of what my aesthetic is, or what my strength is, and what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. That's
So,
fun.
yeah.
I can't wait to see them. So I have a question in this, and you might not even know the answer yet. So, you said, being able to layer those things, the skyscraper, and then having the clothesline be the same, and we know that'll never happen. What does that mean on a deeper level to you? Like, what do you think your subconscious is trying to tell you by having those things? This very, you know, this building and then something that's part of our everyday, like the clothing line or something.
I think maybe perhaps it's we're all contradicting in our thinking as human beings. We kind of conform to one idea, but in the same breath, we have an exception to that idea, which is a stark opposite. And I think that's one of the things we struggle with ourselves. We say we want people to be on time, but then we're okay with certain things not being on time. So it's that kind of dichotomy that we have in life. And I see that a lot in my kids. Like my daughter, she's like she has a lot of challenges, sensory overload. She
Yeah.
hates sound, sudden sounds. She gets scared, but then she'll make a whole racket, and that doesn't bother her. So it's that kind of, I think, the contradictions
Yeah.
that I wanted to play around with and exaggerate because all of us have those.
I
We're
love
just
that.
not present how much we have those.
Yeah. I think that's
See?
really interesting. I like that. I like that perspective of it because it is something that, it's so true. Like there's certain things that's like, oh, we're totally cool with that. And then it's just like, absolutely not. But they're like the same thing, just
Right.
different scenarios. So that's really fun and playful. And I hope that that exploration of those, we can eventually see them.
Yes.
And I
Hmm.
hope you grow with them into to something new as an artist as well.
Thank
So
you.
your color palettes are so vibrant and they're very happy. You can't be you look at your paintings and you're just happy. You
Yes.
just are because they are so full of life and, have a lot of energy. So, you know, where do you find the inspiration for the color palettes? Like where do you see them in different areas and be like, oh, that's a good color combo? Like,
I
how do you
think
plan out your color palettes?
two things about it. One is that it's kind of what I need right now. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to go through overwhelm raising a special needs daughter. She has severe challenges. She's nonverbal, and it's just the two of us. We don't have family here, so it gets really overwhelming fast. And I think this is my respite. It's the happy I'm looking for. It's the freedom that I'm craving for. It's that kind of you know, un unabashed expression that I want. And I think that's what I'm seeking, and that's what keeps getting expressed in my paintings. That happiness and that drive for just, that that excitement when you look at a painting, and that, when you look at candy, which is pink, and it's like you're instantly, or cotton candy, you're instantly like excited about it. So I think that's what I'm craving, and that's what comes out. And the other thing is I use a color wheel as my, I think, my go-to to balance my colors. Like I was talking earlier, like if there's purple, I'll balance it with yellow. So you'll find the whole color wheel in my painting, but it just varies in different, like, quantities. So that's why when it's a big painting, I can accomplish that without too much chaos or going crazy about it. But with smaller paintings, it's harder. But I think the color wheel kind of dictates or informs my harmony that I'm
Yeah.
trying to achieve. That's why you'll find all the colors. And that tends to, like somebody told me, like my art mentor told me, yeah, it's like the rainbow colors. And everybody feels happy when they look at the rainbow. And
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. So I think those are the two things that inspire my work. I keep thinking, oh, this time I'll do a limited palette. And then I do it halfway, and I'm like itching to add the other colors in there. So it's just I've stopped trying to fix it. I just said,
Yeah.
okay, that's my language. I just need to let it be.
Yeah. That's really fun, and that you're aware of that for yourself, because it's everyone has particular colors that they're drawn to painting with, like a palette that's like that they're comfortable with.
Yeah,
And when you try and do something new or challenge yourself as an artist, sometimes it doesn't look right, it's missing something, or you just like get
exactly.
this itch that's like, I need to add something else, I need to add this color. But yeah, and you're like, no, I'm trying to be constrained. You're like, but I gotta do it.
Right.
It's just like these two different, like, people talking to you in
Voices,
your
right?
head. Yeah, these voices that do that. I think that's fun. And
And
you're go ahead. Yeah.
That's why this painting is so great because it didn't have initially all the colors.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, it didn't look like the work I did previously. So I didn't even think it was good until I had stepped away for a couple of months. And then I came back and no, it has enough. So sometimes I'm fighting with it. I'm fighting with that urge and I'm constantly seeing who wins,
Mm-hmm.
which voice wins.
Which voice wins out, man? So, yeah, it's always a battle as an artist. Have you ever done that though? Have you ever? Because I set challenges for myself as an artist. It's like, okay, I am gonna limit my color palette. I'm gonna pick 3 colors and then black and white, or one color black and white, and trying to push yourself to create something within that, even if it's just a little study, not even like a
Yeah.
big painting, just like something just to dink around with and like play and like see how far you can push your boundaries with something. Have you ever done
I've
anything
done
like
that.
that?
I've done studies with it in sketchbooks, and usually my studies are not one a day. They're like 20 while I'm painting one big painting. Whatever paint's left over, I'll just, you know, scrunch it on a bunch of pages, and then, so I'm not thinking there. I'm just putting color, not looking, letting them dry, and that suddenly, that was how one combination emerged in one of my sketchbooks, and my friend loved it. She said, "Can you send it to me?" And I sent it to her, and then there was a project that came out of that sketch, and
Oh,
was a
fun.
limited palette, and it was easy because to me visually, I see, oh, this works. I would, if I had to tell myself, let me do something like this with 3 colors, I'd be constantly arguing with myself and trying not to do it. But I think when I did those sketchbook exercises, like I'm painting this big painting, but going on just scrubbing the rest of the paint elsewhere, I think the thinking is what comes in the way when I'm working with a limited palette.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm able to put that aside, I think sometimes I do end up with some really great um, I'd say explorations.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of fun. Um, do you have any shows or anything coming up, like where you're going to be showing or be part of anything?
I'm doing a vendor event with Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. It's called
Okay.
VAGF in Frisco. It's in the Cowboy Arena.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what it's called. I'm
This
drawing
at
a
the
blank.
Star
Yes,
where they do the
yes.
training facility. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing like a 2.5 day event there in August. I might be doing a one night pop up at a flight of museum or museum of flight. I need to look it up. I think a
Is
pop
that
up
in Fort
event, a
Worth?
fundraise. Dallas downtown.
Dallas. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I said yes to something else, but I'm not. I'm drawing a blank. This year has been so crazy with both the kids out of school and I've I've given in, like I gave in to life pushing me this way, that way. I'm gonna go with the flow and see what emerges. Yes, I do have a group show coming up next year that we're doing in Frisco. It's at the Discovery Center.
Huh?
I don't remember the dates yet, but it's going to be a collective of artists. We're going to do a show at the Frisco Gallery in Discovery Center, which
Oh,
is right
fun.
next to the Frisco Library. And so that's something I'm excited about.
I know where that is. I used to live over
Yeah.
there. I was like, why does that sound familiar? It's because I used to live over there.
Oh, they've redone the whole place. It's unrecognizable. You should go
Oh,
check it out.
really? I'll have to. I haven't been to Frisco in a while because I haven't needed to because I haven't lived there.
Yeah.
Um, so being a full time artist, um, how and also like a full time mom, like trying to paint because I know what it's like trying to paint and everything, and then you have your kids and whatnot. What does that? look like for, what does your studio practice look like? How do you go about approaching your day and scheduling and making sure you get to painting and all that?
There was a time when my daughter used to go to therapy. She gets like intensive behavior therapy for her autism. And when she was out of the house, that was my studio time. And I used to be able to do every day. And I'm grateful that I had that time because it's allowed me to develop to this stage now. And this year it's looking different. Like it's sometimes 2 times a week, sometimes even less. And sometimes that's even good because I can get a lot done in 15 minutes. It takes away that overthinking time that happens and doubting myself and questioning myself. So it's made my practice more kind of honed in.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm learning that art practice doesn't always look like you're in the studio painting. There's so many, it looks a lot of other ways. It can look like, looking at other artists' work and appreciating, like really putting in language what's interesting in their painting that you can take away. It looks like making a couple of sketches on the couch next to them, or it even looks like, watching a movie and looking at, oh, I love that composition and taking a picture. So I think it's been changing, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with how little time I get these days. I keep wondering, do I say I'm a full-time mom, a full-time caretaker, or do I say I'm a full-time artist or a part-time artist just because of the number of hours? And I think you never switch off that artist brain.
Never.
So, and so you can never say you're a part-time artist. You're really a full-time artist because
Mm-hmm.
you've got these two parallel threads that you're actually all the time focused on. And as a mother, it's like for me right now, it looks like being a toddler's mom, but she's 11. But so I'm constantly on edge, constantly thinking of her. I've not been able to shut off that new mom brain it until even now. And I was telling someone, I still think like a new mom. Like, oh, she's gonna hit her head like a kid playing near a step, and you're constantly on edge. That's how parenting looks like in my house right now. And so with these two things, it's like a railway track for me. They're all
Yeah.
constantly going together. They never meet, they never cross over, but they're there.
Yeah, it's all simultaneous. And I think,
Yeah.
like, obviously I'm still a new mom, but it's just like it's true. It's just like you have to find the time within, and it's amazing what we can get done. You're right, in a 15-minute time period.
Yeah.
And or taking the little bits of daily inspiration of your surroundings, or the TV media, whatever, and truly looking at things in a different way, so that you're still constantly in your head creating, even though you might not be putting paint to canvas. You're still processing things and trying to gain new perspective on it, so that that can somehow get translated later on down the road in a painting. Yeah, and I think it's important for obviously what you're doing, is being a mom is obviously the most important job. And it's hard, and you're probably exhausted. And, I get it, but
Yeah.
you pick up every day, and it's just like, what you're supposed to do. You have
Yeah.
to, like, you're never going to stop. And I think that's really special. And, your girl's probably very appreciative and grateful that you're
Thank you.
their mommy, you know?
And to be honest, I nearly considered giving up these past couple of weeks. And I said, okay, I'm not quitting. I can. And so
Yeah.
it's a constant push and pull and struggle. But
Yeah.
I haven't given up yet. So
No,
I'm
and you
still
will.
here.
We're still we always survive, no matter what life throws at us at
Yeah.
any stage of us. We've always gotten through it, even when
Yeah.
it's difficult, even when it's frustrating, hard. But I think, though, as artists, it
Sorry.
then, oh no, you're fine. It then gets to be translated into our artwork, and it comes out
Yeah.
in another form, you know, and
Hmm.
this beautiful release that we needed, you
True.
know. Yeah.
For
So
everyone to see.
exactly, where can people find your work?
So I have a website. It's called lavanyachalla.art.com. So it has most of my art. I do have a Saatchi profile, so you can find me under Lavanya Challa. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, a lot more on Instagram. Instagram. You can see a lot of my daily happenings, I would say, and a little bit of peek into my life in the stories. But yeah, these are the places you can find me. And I'm trying to think anything else. But yeah, this is it for now.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I will make sure to include all of that information into the
Sure.
show notes for you guys. If anyone wants to purchase one of her vibrant works of art, I'll also include any information about upcoming shows and events for you. And if you want, just give her a follow so that you can participate. And if you're, you know, in the area and are able to go and see her, reach out, I'm sure she would be happy to hear from you. So thank you so much for coming on to the Artist Stoop today, and we appreciate you sharing your creative journey with us.
Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
I know. I think we went over. I was.
Oh no, we were
Did
good
we?
on
No?
time.
Okay, okay.
And that, my friends, wraps up another colorful episode of The Artist Stoop. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their art and stories. If you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the next Stoop chat. And don't forget to spread the love. Share your favorite episodes with fellow art enthusiasts, and let's build this community together. Connect with us on social media at JGuze Studio and Jillian Zepeda Art for behind-the-scene peeks, artist spotlights, and a sneak peek at my own art. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep that creative fire burning. This is Jillian Zepeda signing off from the Artist Stoop. And remember, the world is your canvas, so paint it vividly.